Hello, so I'm Emmanuel Brunet-Jailly and I'm going to be your instructor this year for 504. In this short video, I just want to tell you why I teach 504 and a little bit about who I am. So you'll see that in the slide I say that I've had many different jobs before I did my PhD. I worked in government obviously for almost 10 years and then I did a PhD. In political economy, political science, but in political economy. Most of my research is actually on governance. And that's the core reason why I teach this course, is that I study governance, but from a very specialized perspective. From the earliest time of my PhD, I studied cross-border urban regions. So I look at the governance of government systems, public, private, non-profit partnerships across border regions in urban centers. Illustrations of these systems in Canada would be the Niagara regions. It could also be the Windsor-Detroit region, or it can be the greater region of Vancouver and Seattle. I have also studied these elsewhere, such as in Europe and in Asia, and also in Latin America, where I have done fieldwork. Now, these systems to you will appear to be a bit abstract, or even broaching on international studies or international relations. And they do to a certain extent. But they are also the most complex case studies, because this is where you can see forms of government interactions across international boundaries and within their own state as well. So you can study forms of governance that are more complex than the ones you would be accustomed to. And just to illustrate this in the Canadian context, I'll talk to you about just very briefly about Judy Rogers. She used to be the head of the bureaucracy she was the CAO of the Vancouver municipality of Vancouver. And years ago, when I arrived in British Columbia, I talked to her about the work that I was doing, and I asked her if I could have an interview with her. I wanted to interview her on topics that had to do with the management of the regional district at the time, what we call today Metro Vancouver, and the relationship between the municipality and Metro. And one of the things she said to me is that actually she spent a lot of time interacting with the Fraser Valley municipalities and also with Blaine County and the other side of the border on major issues of, transportation, air quality, all kind of issues that are kind of counterintuitive. This is what I study, and I have been studying for 20 years. Now, I've worked at UVic most of my life, my academic life, but before that, I worked in the French government in two different postings. I was in Paris for a while, and I managed national level programs that were implemented in the various regions of France. But I also worked at the regional level as a government official working to implement economic development policies, employment policies in one specific region of France, which is the Nord-Pas-de-Calais. It's a region where you have relations with Britain, especially the Kent County Council across the Channel, but also with Belgium. So I have some experience of some areas of policies and hands-on experience for many years, about 8 years of this. And I have studied this system now for well over 20 years. I've been a full professor for a number of years at UVic. I'm also a Jean Monnet chair, I've had two Jean Monnet chairs, which means basically that the European Union pays UVic to allow me to teach very specific courses where I compare Canadian system to the EU system. So I hope that, this presentation allows you to kind of size out who I am and what I've done. If you want to look at what I've done more in detail, you can see that in border studies or in border region studies, I currently hold the largest research program in the country, which is well over 5 million Canadian dollars and involves research centers today in more than 20 countries. So that's really the kind of things I do. So I'm not a generalist of the government and governance, policy and complexities per se, but I'm highly specialized and I know some areas extremely well. And I think you can draw on that in the course. It has obviously an impact on the course, that area of specialization. There are two things that I'm asking you to do that are directly related to my research. One is that when you do these small reports, assignment number 3, which I detail in another video, I am asking you to work on border issues. And you can pick up whatever governance change or border policy innovation that would have been implemented by the federal government through CBSA, through the RCMP, through immigration, and so on and so forth. But this is an area that I know quite well, and I work with CBSA. So this is an area where obviously I can contribute quite a bit to the kind of work that you are asked to do in class. Another area which is indirectly related is the truth and reconciliation. Because in this area, a lot of First Nations in Canada are actually asking for self-determination. Not that they are doing this in a very aggressive way, but certainly the long-term strategy that they have. You can look at, Haida Gwaii and other areas where basically the goal is to change the relationship. So we talk about territorial governance. Their goal is obviously to have some form of self-determination. Self-determination starts at the implementation stage by the drawing of boundaries, which is my area of research. So the relationship here is also important. Obviously, you are not going to study those things in that way, but I'm interested in any kind of policies that would have, and any kind of policy research that would have some form of impact, on claims, or that would result from claims that First Nations would have. Because in very many instances, at one tip end of the policy change or the policy innovation that would be worked through, there may be an issue of self-determination. So we can discuss this obviously more in class, but I just wanted to make it very clear to all of you that the relationship between me and the course is not an accident. I have a real interest in this course. I think it's a fantastic course because it's a course for high-level generalists. It really is designed for MA students. It is very comprehensive through each one of the units, and at the same time, it allows you to learn in areas that you don't know well. You may be a budget specialist, and then you discover certain areas or issues, for instance, with citizen engagement, issues of democracy, issues of service delivery. You may be a service delivery specialist, and then you'll learn quite a bit about budgeting, or public administrative law obligations, and so on and so forth. So it gives you a really thorough background on the government and governance in Canada. Thank you very much.